So today I'm going to be giving my final election prediction for the 2024 U.S. national presidential election. I'm recording this about a week before the election, and I've done a whole bunch of these videos from when Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race all the way up until the most recent prediction, which was like a few weeks ago, and now this is my final prediction. I've said that I'm going to do a final prediction based off of trending, polling data, and just kind of what's happening in each state, and specifically the swing states, but also like where they're campaigning at, if they're campaigning good enough, their promises and such like that. All that kind of stuff will be factored into this video. Now, just real quick, this is not regarding the video, but for Saturday, there will not be a civilization video. I'm going to be recording another Age of History 3 video for you guys. If you don't watch my channel, you don't know what that is, but if you do, there you go. This is mostly because I didn't record enough civilization videos to make it to Thanksgiving break. That was intentional. Kind of figured that, there would probably need to be a break somewhere in there, and I'm going to be putting the break this weekend. But yeah, back to this video. So the 2024 election, less than a week away. It's going to be a very close election. It's going to come down to a few 10,000 votes, in my opinion. There's talks of a landslide on either side. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's too many people who don't want Trump back in office, and there's also too many people who are in support of Trump for there to be a landslide on either side. So we can go ahead and eliminate that. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into this. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated. Maybe one day we can move outside of this box, but it looks like I'll probably be recording in here again on Thursday. But yeah, let's start. So we have about 7 swing states in this election. Some people might be saying that Virginia is a swing state or like New Hampshire is a swing state. Not in this election. I don't think so. I think a lot of people are overestimating Trump in the polls. That's opinionated though. The polling doesn't show everything. You can look at betting markets and stuff like that. I guess. Betting markets weren't too accurate a few years ago. So yeah, maybe don't look at betting markets. I think the best chances we have at predicting this is kind of just polling and their margins of errors and stuff like that. So with that in mind, this is 270 to win, which is the website I'm using for this map. This is their current projection as of October 26th. It leaves out swing states because it's going to let me do swing states, but I agree with this 100%. I don't think Minnesota, Virginia, and New Hampshire is going to flip. I don't think Ohio, Iowa, or Texas are going to flip or anything like that. Those are all solid states solidified with the Democrats or the Republicans respectively, which means that there are about 93 electoral votes up in the air for this election, in which now we have these battleground states which will decide the election. So where do we start? Let's start with the safest states for both candidates. We'll start with the safest state for Harris, and then we'll go to the safest state for Trump. So for this video, we will be looking at polling, but we're not going to be solely basing it off of what the polls are saying, because a lot of the polls right now are extremely close. A lot of them are even, like in Georgia, Wisconsin, and I think Nevada, they're all even, but we'll check that for each individual state. But even if there is a small lead, like, maybe North Carolina's Trump +2, we'll still factor in the margin of error, which is about 2% for 538. So yeah, like I said, we're not going to only be factoring polls. We'll also go into their campaigns, where they've been and where they have strongly been. So let's start with Michigan, probably the safest state on this map for Harris. So here we are. You guys can see the margins here, 47% Harris, 48% Trump. That's a +1 for him. It looks like they do have a Senate race going on. I'm not going to be covering the Senate or the House or anything like that for this election, but maybe the midterms. Some more general elections, Trump +1. These are some very generous margins. 50% turnout is kind of a lot. We have one even here going back to the 21st of October. We have a pretty strong Harris lead, and everything before that is a pretty strong Harris lead. So, of course, as the election has gotten closer, the polls have also gotten closer to kind of validate themselves because, should Trump win this state, then they'll be like, oh, we had it even right before the election. So that's kind of the justification there. But usually if you go back just a little bit before the election got super close, like, a few days ago, or at this point a week ago for me, you can see the large Harris lead here. We're not going to really worry about like the partisan organizations polls because, it's better just to do the polls that aren't partisan. You can see down here, like Democrat funded, Republican funded, blah, blah, blah. The red one is Republican funded. So we won't really look at their polls too much. We'll go for the neutral ones. No one's going to object to that, right? So even though that most recently that the polls have a Trump +1 here, and it looks like more recently, I don't think he's going to win Michigan, and that is, I think a lot of people would agree with me on that, at least a lot of people that pay attention to like the polls and stuff, or the election in general. Harris has had a very strong campaign in Michigan. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give her Michigan. So that's 15 electoral votes towards the Democrats, now putting them at 241 on election night. Like I said, that is probably her most safe state. I feel like if I had to put money on it, on any of these battleground states going to Harris, I would put all my money on Michigan. And, I could be wrong. Come election time, Michigan goes red. I'm like, whoa. Now we'll be looking at the safest state for Trump, and this is most likely going to be Arizona. Now, in 2020, the Democrats were able to flip Arizona over, which helped them win the election, of course. Joe Biden had 306 electoral votes, I believe. But you can see the polling here. It's been back and forth between even and Trump, but that's a pretty good sign that it's going to Trump because you haven't seen any Harris leads in these polls. Most recently, which was... Oh, yeah, okay. So, you can see, the weeks that this polling was conducted, but it's been pretty Trump. Unless there's, a last-ditch effort by the Harris group to go into Arizona and heavily campaign for them, I don't think that they have this state in their bag. And, Arizona is a traditionally Republican state. It was an outlier in 2020 when it flipped. A lot of people had it flipping, including myself. I brag about this a lot, but I almost got the 2020 election perfect. I just got Georgia and North Carolina mixed up. My bad. Also, I forgot to bring my mouse with me, so I'm having to use my laptop to, move around and stuff, which you would think would be fine, but the microphone picks it up every time I tap it. So I'm trying not to, move the windows around when I'm talking in order to avoid this sound that you guys can hear. Yeah, not pleasant, is it? But yeah, back to the map. Arizona tilting to the Republicans. I don't think any of these battleground states are going to be in the lean category, which if you look at my mouse cursor over here in the top right, you can see the lean, likely, and safe. I think all these battleground states are going to be tilts. That's how close this election is going to be. And once again, I could be completely wrong. There could be a Trump blowout or a Kamala Harris blowout. I highly doubt that either of those things happen. I think this will probably be even closer than 2020 because if the incumbent has a pretty bad situation they walk into, they're not in a good situation to win again in 2024 unless your opponent is this guy, Donald Trump. Quick reminder that candidates this cycle are once again not the greatest. Also similar to 2020, not the best candidates for the job. And 2016, not the best candidates for the job. You see, we have a trend here of not good candidates. Maybe something like a multi-party system would fix this. Anyway, now we are left with the more kind of toss-up battleground states. Michigan, I feel like is pretty safe for her, and Arizona pretty safe for him. But now we have Nevada, we have Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. So, Wisconsin and Nevada, they aren't as important as for Georgia, North Carolina, or Pennsylvania. Georgia and NC are both worth 16, and then you have Pennsylvania, which is the big one, which is the most important state in this cycle at 19. Now, we're not going to be talking about Pennsylvania just yet because that's likely going to be the last state that we do because it will likely be the state that decides the election in real life. Let's take a look at Nevada first. All right, so the Nevadan polls here, we have Trump +1, even Harris +1, even Harris +1. Yeah, it's back and forth a lot between the +1s and +2s. We have a +4 down here, which is kind of weird. It's kind of similar to the +3 up here. I don't know about all that. We're getting a little too ahead of ourselves here, but once again, this is another one of those states that are just super, super close, and they could go either way on election night. The polling history, it's pretty even, actually. There isn't a clear, dominating group here. You had Harris +3 back in September, but that was September, and then her +4 in early October. That was early October. We're now at the end of October. And then you had all this other stuff that's happened since then. It's been back and forth. I think this state goes to the left, and I think it stays to the left. You're allowed to disagree with me. Nevada is a historically Democratic state as of recently in modern politics, and I don't think that they switch here. They didn't switch in 2020, and I don't think too much has changed, so they're not going to change in 2024, in my opinion. But once again, could be completely wrong. So Nevada goes tilt to the Democrats, giving them 247 to 230. 6 electoral votes. It probably won't decide the election, and if it does, that'll be crazy because it's only 6 electoral votes. It's a battleground state. It's a mix-up. I actually haven't seen too much of Trump in Nevada. I might have just missed it. It's hard to keep up with everything. I have seen Harris in Nevada. I haven't seen Trump there. So I think that also has to do with the factor of me giving it to her. Also, historically Democratic state, so we're going to maintain that there. I think Nevada sticks blue for this election cycle. Could change in the next one, though, as the state becomes more right-leaning. All right, so now we have to choose our next state here, and let's go with Wisconsin because they are the next lowest electoral count state. They only have 10, but they're still really important, especially because it's a battleground state. Let's take a look at their polling data. And would you make a guess that this is another one of those states that has been extremely back and forth between the two? We're looking at 47 to 48 margin percentage of turnout here, some saying 50. That usually never happens, so we can kind of push aside those polls a little bit because 50% of turnout is insane. Not insane, it's not too far-fetched, but it just doesn't happen often enough. So, yeah, you can see Harris, even, Trump, Harris, Trump. What do we make out of this? Who knows? These polls were conducted within the past week, Harris +2, then you have Trump +1, Trump +1. So, yeah, they were also conducted at the same time, which goes to show that, there's polling can be all over the place, and that is exactly what we see here. But I think the most interesting thing that we see here is the even. This kind of shows that even though that this is like the same polling place, I can bet you that what they did is they just surveyed different areas of Wisconsin, and every single time they got even turnout results. Then you have this partisan group here that had even. Once again, we're not really going to look too much into those. They had Trump +1 here, which is a different one, but the partisan groups are saying even, then it's most likely even, because they usually tend to be biased. And if they're disregarding bias for an even stance, then it can mean two things. It can mean that one, that it truly is even, or two, that there is a slight, in this case, Democratic lead, that they are biasing into an even lead. I don't think that's the case here. I just think that it's extremely close in Wisconsin. So what do we factor in here? Do we factor in the most recent polls, or do we factor in the older polls? I don't know. What do you think? I think that a big factor for Wisconsin can be not vice president, or maybe soon to be vice president, who knows. But Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota, he's the Midwestern guy. I think the reason that Harris chose him is because he's that Midwestern guy who can help her win, not just Minnesota, which already a safe state, but maybe even Wisconsin. I think that's part of the reason that she brought him in. It probably would have been smarter if she chose Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, because that's the governor of Pennsylvania. You need that state. That state's extremely close. And I'll be honest with you, it's not going in her favor right now. But maybe she sees a path that isn't through Pennsylvania. Who knows? This state, extremely close. And, it's because it's so close, we are going to be looking at other factors. So, like I said, Tim Walz from Minnesota, right next to Wisconsin, they border each other. We can also look at what it was in 2020, a blue state. And then we can look at what it is electing, or what it has elected in the past. So they have a Democratic governor. They have 2 senators, one a Democrat and one a Republican. All right, that's pretty even. What do we do about that? Well, the polling it's pretty even recently. In my own personal belief and opinion, which is kind of what this is my prediction, not just based off of polling. I think Wisconsin sticks blue for this election. Once again, like any of the other states I've already talked about, minus Michigan and Arizona, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way on election night. But I have Wisconsin sticking blue here. I think right now there is a large rhetoric that this election isn't going to be close and that Trump's going to blow out the election. That's part of the propaganda that is pushed out during election cycles. We're going to blow these guys out. So, yeah. And then that kind of fuels the fan bases, and then it goes over, and then it starts turning into hate, which is something that's been trending since 2016. Yeah. If it does happen, then I'll admit that I was wrong. But I don't think it's going to happen. A lot of political experts don't think it's going to happen. I'm not a political expert. I'm just a dude making a prediction video on the election. I'm semi-informed. Well, I'm pretty informed on politics. I'm studying a brand of politics in college. So I kind of have to be informed on this kind of stuff. A little bit important for me. Am I giving myself a lot of credibility there? Not necessarily. But I haven't been too wrong in the past. All right, let's take a look at the final 3 states. These are the most important states because, as you can see right now, the score is 257 Democrats to 230 Republicans, putting it in a football sense. Or maybe a basketball sense because it's 200. But even then, 200 is a lot in basketball. What sport has you have 250? Cricket? Cricket, maybe? I don't know. I don't know anything about cricket. But Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, these are the most important states here. And they have been hit very hard by the campaign trails of both Harris and Trump in recent days. Trump is in Pennsylvania. He has been in Pennsylvania for a very long time now. I just saw a clip from a rally that I posted it on my Twitter, but it was an interesting clip. They said some pretty interesting things there, some pretty racist things there. But anyway, though, no bias in for me in this video. Just purely what I think is going to happen based off of what I've seen and what I feel. Okay, so let's start with North Carolina. This state is extremely interesting to me because this state has gotten very close in the polls, which I found extremely unexpected. Now, when I say extremely close, I don't mean that like it's a toss-up, mix-up. I do still think there's a clear candidate that's going to win it. But it is interesting to... Okay, well, there goes my whole point out the window. All right, so a little bit ago, I guess back in late September, I guess I'm tripping or something, but I'm pretty sure that I saw a pretty even polling turnout here. That's obviously changed since I last checked North Carolina. But it's you can see that it's still within like a margin of +1 or +2, +1, +2. Even in early October, there was a few Harris plus polls going on there. Now, I'm not going to like sit here and sugarcoat it or anything. I think this state is a pretty safe state for Trump. Is it as safe as Arizona? No, I don't think so. I think Arizona is a little bit more safe than North Carolina in this cycle, mostly based off the fact that these polls are extremely close. And within the margin of error still, these kind of mid-October polls had them outside of the margin of error, which in that case, you're pretty certain the state will go to the right. Polls were wrong in 2016 big time, though. Polls in 2020 were pretty accurate. Could they be wrong again here? I don't think so, and that's because, America has seen Trump through, 2016 and 2024. I think that people are a little bit more informed on the candidates this time around, the vice president of the United States and the former president of the United States. So the people know the candidates. There's not going to be any uncertainty in who they're voting for. I feel like in 2016, it was a lot more of a mix-up, and that mix-up led to Trump getting elected in 2016. This time around, people know who the candidates are. They've seen both of them in office, except Trump was president, she was vice president. Same thing, though. Still, the highest and second highest office in the United States. So I feel like the polling is going to be a lot more accurate this time compared to 2016. But like I said, I do think that North Carolina is a pretty safe state for him, so we give it to them, bringing up their margin to 246 for the Republicans. And now we are left with Georgia and Pennsylvania, arguably the two most important states in this election cycle, because you need to win one of them to win the election. No, you can actually win North Carolina and Arizona if you're Harris and win the election. It might be different for Republicans because they have less electoral votes overall, in terms of the safe, likely, and lean states. Harris only has to win one of them in this scenario. Trump has to win two of them. And this is largely the reason why we have seen both candidates in Pennsylvania as of lately. We've seen a lot of Harris in Georgia, and we've seen a lot of Trump in Pennsylvania. So they're kind of playing their cards where they think they can win. What's interesting, though, is the governor and Senate makeups of these states. Now, I'm not saying that, the governor of the state decides who wins it or anything like that, or, but you can kind of look at who's elected in that state, in 2022 or 2020 when Raphael Warnock got elected in Georgia? I think it was 2020, but that was a pretty good sign that the Democrats were going to win the state overall, and that's exactly what they did. Two Democratic senators in the state voted for Biden in 2020. But the main reason I'm bringing this up is because these states are extremely close. Let's start with Georgia. All right, so in Georgia, it has been pretty much just Trump. We could see as of recently, that's a bipartisan group, never mind. We've seen +1 from Trump. We see even +1 Harris, +2 Trump, +1 Trump. Much of the same. A lot of +1 Trumps here, a little bit of Harris. But this is a pretty, if you're a Democrat, this is a pretty worrying side. Once again, this is, +1. +2 occasionally, but a lot of +1s. And what do you know about +1s? They fall within the margin of error. So what I'm saying for the third or maybe fourth time in this video, this state could go either way on election night because there's no real way to know who's going to win a state. Let's take a look at the graph. You can kind of see, you can't see the full thing, but you can see that over here, at least, it's been very back and forth. You can see numerous amount of polls. Someone had Trump getting 51%? 52? That's crazy. But the trend has been mostly Republican, so with that in mind, I think Georgia goes to the right, making the election extremely close, which, guess what? I've said that multiple times. 257 to 262. And once again, it all comes down to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was the state that won Joe Biden the election in 2020, and Pennsylvania will most likely be the state that decides the winner of this election in about a week. So who's going to win Pennsylvania? Good question. I just saw a clip, actually. I know earlier I said that there was a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. That was actually in Madison Square Garden in New York, of the dude saying the weird low-key racist stuff, but in a comedic way, so it's okay, right? Yeah, totally. I don't know why you're campaigning in New York. New York it's not a swing state. It's not going to flip. If it does, then I might have to retire my political career on YouTube. Political, not mapping. But yeah, New York flipping, that's not going to happen. So we go to Pennsylvania. Look what you see here. A bunch of even. October 20th to October 27th, we've seen Harris +1, Trump +2, and Trump +1. 51% turnout margin for Trump. I don't know about all that. We'll look at some of the smaller turnout. 50% for Harris. I don't know about that. 50% for Harris. I don't know about that. It's probably going to be something like 49, 48, or 49, 49. Maybe probably 48, 48, but I think the turnout in this election is going to be a lot, but probably not as much as 2020. So 48, 48, 48, 47 maybe. So looking at the polls, Harris +2, Harris +2, Trump +2, Harris +1. More recently, actually no, these are all pretty much in the same time span, but you can see how back and forth it is. You can see the even right here from Morning Consult. You can see Harris +4, it's, toned down a little bit right there. Same with the Trump +3, but that's from a partisan group. Yeah, close. What do we also know about Pennsylvania? Outside of the polls, it's got a Democratic governor, Democratic senators. Does this have too much to do with this election cycle? No, not at all. Are we factoring the House and Senate elections into my presidential election? No, we're not, because the Senate is a lot different than the presidential elections. You're more likely to get a Democratic senator in Montana than you are to get Montana flipping blue for Harris. Even though the Democratic senator in Montana, I believe, is on his way out or is losing in his. I don't know. I don't know enough about the Senate races. I know they're extremely close though, and this is kind of important. Like who is the president going to get in the Senate? Are they going to get the Senate? Are they going to get the House? Are they going to get both? Are they going to get neither? Like that's kind of important for that. But for the sake of this video, we're only looking at the presidential stuff. And Pennsylvania, oh boy, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians in the comments, I know that no matter what I say, you're going to be mad. Because you Pennsylvanians tend to be very active in the comments. I read the comments. I'm not stupid. You think I'm stupid? I'm really not, though. I'm that guy. Oh, but what do we do with Pennsylvania here? Either way, people are going to get mad at me for whatever I do. There's a pretty good chance that this election cycle has Pennsylvania going red. There's also a pretty good chance that it goes blue. What do we also know about previous elections is that the Rust Belt tends to vote together. I think that there's a chance that can break this election. I'm not too sure about Pennsylvania. Everything else to this point, I've been pretty sure about. And if I said that I'm not sure about it, then I'm even more unsure about Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is the state in this election. So it's so hard to choose a candidate to win it, because both of them have been there so often recently, and both of them have done an insane amount of campaigning there. Harris has used Shapiro to campaign for her. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. That's pretty big. Pennsylvanians, go out there and vote. Prove me wrong with that turnout margin. Let's see a 49-49. But for what I'm going to be doing for Pennsylvania, I'll be keeping them blue. I know. People are going to be mad at that. I know. And if I did it the other way around, people would still be mad at it. The truth is that you and I, neither of us know what this election is going to look like. You might think you know what it looks like, but you don't. You really don't. And if you get your prediction right, then good for you, but that's just pure luck. And if this actually happens on election night, this is pure luck for me. I have Georgia and Arizona flipping back to Trump, but that isn't enough for him to win the election, as Harris is able to retain Nevada and the Rust Belt states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. That's my prediction. That's just kind of how I feel that it's going to go. I think she gets elected very narrowly. Now, if she does get elected, what are we going to see from the Republicans? Because as we know, in 2020, when they lost the 2020 election, a whole bunch of bad things happened. We tried to overturn election results. We got a few people killed during January 6th, trespassing on U.S. government property during the election process, all that fun stuff that people got away with. Is it going to happen again this time? I don't know. I hope not. I think everyone hopes not. Well, there's probably a few people that hope so, and you know who you are. Don't incite violence, okay? It's never that serious. I don't think the country is going to end either way, Elon Musk on Twitter saying democracy is going to die if Harris gets elected. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If you scroll through Elon Musk's Twitter, he might not be as smart as everyone gives him credit for. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I don't think that he lives up to the genius that people label him. Anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for my election prediction. My final election prediction. This is the map. Democrats 276 to Republicans 262. I think right now there is a way too large overhype of the Republican Party and Donald Trump. I think that it's going to lead to some people getting too comfortable on that side. And, they may feel like hey, we're going to win this election, so we don't even have to go out and vote. If that happens, that would be, I'm not going to lie, that would be pretty funny. Because that's exactly what happened in 2016 with Democrats. They were like, yo, we're going to blow this dude out. We don't even have to go out and vote. And then Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina all flipped red, and they were like, whoa. I think in this election cycle, the Democrats are going to have a little bit more turnout than Republicans, because just in 2020, we saw the highest amount of turnout in U.S. election history from both parties. Joe Biden got, I think it was 81 million votes from the Democrats. I don't know if it's going to be 81 million again. It might be something like 78, maybe 76, but I still think there's going to be a high amount of turnout because Democrats do not like Donald Trump and Republicans do not like Kamala Harris. But Republicans seem to be a little bit more comfortable right now than the Democrats are. So maybe we see a reverse 2016 here. Maybe Harris blows it out. I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be nice in the comments to each other. Be nice to me. I'm doing my best, okay? It's hard to do predictions when the polling has no clear favorite in any state, or at least the more important states. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Once again, let me know what you think in the comments. Everyone be nice to each other because there's too much hate in the U.S. right now when it comes to politics. We need to tone down on the hate It's a little too much. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, which is going to be Saturday. It's going to be another Age of History 3 video. I hope you're ready. See ya. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Pablo Sigma Cat, Sermonator, Georgie Badev, Deathstrider X, Arentine, Hammertoad45, Connor the Gamer, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, and DW Cool Dude. Once again, thank you guys.